Welcome to Home Remodeler Toolbox, the podcast dedicated to empowering remodelers and builders to build and grow successful businesses. Join your host, Bob Vance, founder of Home Remodeler SEO, as he brings you industry insights and strategies that will help you build a thriving business, no matter what level you're at in your business. Whether you're a thriving multi-million-dollar business or you're working on building your business from the foundation up, this podcast is your go-to source for industry secrets and actionable strategies that you can implement in your business to get to that next level. So, turn on, tune in, and let's help you build your business foundation one building block at a time.
In this episode, we're excited to welcome Kyle Hunt, owner and founder of Remodelers on the Rise. Kyle has spent years helping remodeling business owners build stronger, more profitable companies by improving their sales process, financial clarity, marketing, leadership, and systems. Before launching Remodelers on the Rise in 2008, Kyle worked inside a remodeling company in Michigan, so he understands the real challenges remodelers face day to day. Since then, he's built a coaching, training, podcast, and community platform designed to help remodelers create less chaos, more profit, and more freedom in their businesses. He's also a speaker, podcast host, lifelong Michigan resident, husband, father of four, golfer, and Detroit Tigers fan. Well, hey, Kyle, it's great to have you on the podcast today. I've really been looking forward to this conversation with you.
I'm glad to be here. Yesterday, folks, when we were doing our little prep, because 5P, proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? 5P.
Absolutely. 5P.
We did a little prep session, and Bobby said, well, it's hump day today. And I said, what are you talking about? It's only Tuesday, man. And I kind of ruined your day yesterday, I think, because you had Wednesday in your mind. We're recording this before the holiday weekend. So it's officially Wednesday, but I feel prepared for this because we had the nice prep session, which was a nice little touch. 5P, people.
always preparing. Yep. I wasn't maybe prepared for the Friday off this week and threw off my hump day schedule.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So, well, Kyle, instead of, having me try to tell your story, why don't you share with our audience today a little bit about how you started Remodelers on the Rise and maybe what problems you were trying to solve when you first started out?
Yeah, that's good. I've always been entrepreneurial, and I'll take it back a little bit further where in high school, I made some spreadsheets for my baseball coach. Kind of you go in there and you enter in that game, and obviously for under Kyle Hunt it said 4 for 4 with 3 home runs and 7 RBIs, and it tallied it up. And this was before, for you young kids out there, we didn't have apps to take care of this back in 99, 2000, 2001, and made these spreadsheets for my coach. And then being kind of entrepreneurial, my senior year of college, I was finance major, marketing major at Western Michigan University. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take those spreadsheets. I'm going to call it Track the Team. I'm going to send out and address and put the stamp on there and get the list of 500 high schools in Michigan and send it to the high school baseball coach and high school softball coach. And I mailed those out thinking, you know what, I'm going to sell this for $60 or $70 or whatever it was, and hopefully make, $1,000 or something. So I ended up doing it. I did okay. I sold some of them enough to take my then fiance out for some dinners and whatnot. But one of the gentlemen who purchased it is a guy named Jim Long, who owned a remodeling company and a heating, cooling, plumbing company in Northville, Michigan. And Jim purchased it, was struggling with getting something to work in the spreadsheets, and we helped him with that. And then he goes, Kyle, I saw your little letter that prompted me to buy this, and we're looking to create this position at the company and wondering if they're teaching this at college where you're going. And he's basically saying, we're looking to create a marketing position, somebody to take care of our marketing plan and budget, somebody to manage our website, our advertising, all of that stuff. And I said, man, sir, you're talking about me here. Like, I've been doing website work. I have an interest in marketing. And that turned into playing a round of golf, kicking his butt, of course, because we don't, even if we want a job, we still whoop people's butt in golf. show no mercy, and ended up taking that as my first job out of college. And that led me into the remodeling world. I never had that experience before. My grandpa on one side was a builder by trade. My other grandpa was a painter. My dad did a ton of painting just growing up for his dad, but never had any skill as far as like swinging the hammer much. I did the student painters thing one year, but that led me into the remodeling world of marketing, advertising, of managing the showroom and our 4 designers, get involved in the financial side. And about 4 or so years of doing that, I turned to my wife and I said, honey, we got a crappy economy here in Michigan. It was 2008, 2009. No money in the bank to fall back on, but I want to quit my job and start my own business. What do you think she said, Bob?
Great idea, Kyle. Let's do it.
Pretty much.
Probably not.
She's had, I think, some revisionist history on it. Like, I, of course, was saying yes, and I never doubted my hubby. To her credit, though, I think she was very supportive, and I think she knew I was kind of entrepreneurial all along. And I was able to kind of wean my employer, kind of wean down off of that down to 4 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days a week. I was only making $43,000 a year, so I didn't have a huge, salary to cover, and just kind of said, you know what, I'm going to go out here and this is going to be easy. I signed on as a duct tape marketing coach. I spent some money to become a coach for duct tape marketing, a guy named John Jantz, who had a book, Simple, Proven, Practical Marketing, and went out there and started saying, hey, I got this book, Proven Marketing Plan. I had implemented that kind of program at the remodeling company, and went out there and started working my butt off.
Great.
That was 18 years ago.
Wow. And here you are now. You Remodelers on the Rise, a big name in the business when it comes to coaching, consulting. One thing that intrigued me is, you've worked with dozens and dozens of companies. How many of the companies that you start working with are actually healthy businesses that look good on paper?
Um, I would say some, and then
Okay.
a bigger group in the, things aren't bad, but they could be so much better. We need to work on this, that, and the other. And then, some people do reach out and they're like, look, it's a mess. Like, I'm in quite a predicament. I need to figure this out sooner rather than later. So a little bit of across the board. I'd say that the folks that reach out that are probably in the bigger section of things, they do a great job as far as completing the work and making clients happy. But probably the biggest area where they need to put more focused attention is on the financial side. So while I started my business kind of a little bit more focused on the marketing side, over the years, it's expanded to business coaching for remodelers, a lot around financials, marketing, sales process, leadership. And a lot of people that reach out, they've got some good elements in place, but the financial part is wonky. Their pricing is a little bit off. They have slippage on projects where they sold the project, let's say at a 35% margin, not markup, margin, and they're bringing it in at 27%. They have slippage. Things are costing more than they expected, and they're not paying attention to that, and they don't see it. A little unclear about their profit and loss statement and gross profit and all of that. So that's where a lot of folks are either listening to my podcast, or they're in our Facebook group, or they're just part of our email list. So we're always kind of putting out content, and they kind of raise their hand going, hey, I kind of like what you're saying, and it's resonating with me. How can you help me a little bit further?
Right. What do you think are, speaking of the financials, what do you think are the biggest profit leaks that businesses are experiencing? Where are they really missing out on getting that profit margin up?
Yeah. A few things. I'll list out a few things. One is they're just flat out not charging enough. I was on the Zoom call with a client. We've been working with him. I think we're kind of in month 4. He's doing some one-on-one coaching, and he was showing me his estimate that this proposal he was putting together, and it was a $400,000 project, and I was looking at his job tread, and we're looking at the bottom line, and he's selling it at a 35% margin, 35% margin, and I said, hey, if you rewind the clock 6 months ago, what would you be selling this project at? He goes, low 20s, probably. And so what's the difference between him selling at, let's say, a 25% margin and a 35% margin? And in that case, if I could do some math real quick, on a $400,000 project, at 35% margin, there's $140,000 of gross profit that he's looking at versus 100,000. He's charging another $40,000 of gross profit. The big difference between him doing that, he was just undercharging, is a lot just between his two ears. Well, I can't charge that. I don't know if I can charge that. But when you start to look at your overall numbers and you say, look, you have X amount of overhead expenses. You have a projected kind of top line revenue of this. The reason money is tight, the reason there's not much left for net profit is you're just flat out not charging enough. So that's one area that is a confidence booster, is a clarity booster. When we start to see the overall numbers, that's one area that I see. Another area is just straight up sloppy estimating, or we're optimistic estimators. The demo on this, I think it's going to take us 25 hours to do that. So you plug in 25 hours times your fully labor burden cost, and you add your markup and margin to that, and you put it out there. And what too many remodelers do, and obviously the people listening to this are not the case, I'm sure they're the exception, or maybe not. What a lot of remodelers do is you never go back, or you're not tracking things close enough to be able to say, okay, you estimated it was going to take 25 hours for that. How many hours did it actually take? And a lot of times their answer is, I need to be watching that closer. I should be paying attention to that closer. Well, my guys, they don't log in correctly, and it's a bit of a mess. I just don't have time to do that. Well, that's where a lot of financial struggle goes, because if we're watching that closely, it may have taken 40 hours to do that. And that's slippage. It's costing you more in actual than what you were expecting it to cost. And if we're not closely watching our job costing, it's fuzzy. We don't know where the money's going. We have to watch our job costing very, very closely. You have to set up and wrangle your system so that you can see, where is slippage happening? Is it in the demo phase? Is it in the finished product? Are you not getting a fixed price from your electrician? Are you not getting a fixed price from your plumber, and you plugged in $2,000 for that plumbing, and they send you a bill for $2,700, and you have $700 of slippage there? Well, we need to go earlier in our process and make sure that we're taking a lot of the risk out of it and getting fixed prices for that. So that's another area, is we're not paying attention to our job costing. So our estimating ends up not improving over time, and we're optimistic estimators, and that's where a lot of leak happens.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. And I think you point out something really, really astute, that most remodelers, they are not going back and looking at those numbers. They just go, or like you said, a profit margin is a little lower. Could have just cost you $40,000 or $50,000, instead of being more attention detail oriented, saying, okay, now I'm going to, kind of like a debrief. You're going to go through your whole project, debrief it, and figure out what worked out, what was, in line with expectations, and what didn't really meet up. And it doesn't seem like enough business owners are doing that.
And both of us can be empathetic for that. We're both business owners. There's a lot to juggle. There's a lot to do. Well, Kyle, I'm not looking at the job costing because I'm dealing with this challenge in the field. I need to order the materials for the next job. I'm trying to finalize the proposal so that we can sign this and get this project started next. I've got a trade partner that didn't show up. If you are a remodeler listening to this and you're going, man, this business is hard, it's because it's stinking hard. A remodeling business is a hard business. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to it. So I'm totally empathetic to why you as a remodeler might not be watching your job costing very closely. But I'm telling you, from an experienced coach who's guided hundreds of remodelers at this point through this, you have to stop making excuses about it, and you have to start taking your number side seriously. And if it's fuzzy and it's murky and it's overwhelming, that is the thing that you need to lean into, because when you fix that, so much of your other challenges and problems start to get smaller. And what's really exciting is you start to make some stinking good money for all of the blood, sweat, tears, stress, anxiousness, anxiety work that you're putting into this project, into this business. So often it's the financial aspect. If I say, hey, As far as understanding your overall financials on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being pitiful, 10 being amazing, where are you at? And they say 3. I go, excellent, excellent. You numbered it, you named it. We can go from a 3 to an 8. And I know you've tried before, and I know it's fuzzy, and I know it's hard, and I know it's not your skill set. You are off the charts amazing at taking something that is, I can't even see, and building something amazing. And your finished trim work is amazing, and you can elegantly lead a project through and create an amazing finished project. That's wonderful. But you suck at the financials. And until you get better at the financials, you're going to struggle, and you're going to have a hard time paying your team more, taking more home for your family, understanding and having less stress there. So we need to take that 3 out of 10 skill level on the financials, and we need to get that to 4 out of 10 and 5 out of 10 and 6 out of 10 and 7 out of 10. And then you can start to breathe, and then you're going to go, I get it now. And then you're going to start charging what you need to charge, and your confidence is going to build, and it gets more enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can pry a trade secret out of you and how you coach folks, how do remodelers really get their pricing dialed in? Because every market's different, every project's different, and then they're worried about competition. And I think that the biggest reason that they underbid is that they're just afraid of losing a project, thinking, oh my God, did I overbid that? I lost the project now. But that's where they end up coming in low all the time, and they never really achieve a profit margin that they need. Like how do they really figure out that pricing for their market?
Yeah. Well, we have to set the for the market off to the side, and we have to set the competition off to the side. I get that those are factors, but stop. Just put them off to the side for a second. What you need to do is, for your business, you need to figure out and determine and calculate, what does your markup and margin need to be in order to be profitable? So just kind of setting that aside. There's several different ways to go about it. One of the more popular ways to look at your pricing is volume-based pricing, volume-based markup and margin. And you need 3 things. You need, what is my total annual revenue goal? I need that number. So you might go, well, last year we did $800,000 of revenue. The year before that we did 700. As I'm sitting here today and projecting it out, we're on pace, and I think we're going to be able to get to $1 million of revenue. This way of pricing is very much dependent on your total revenue. So you got $1 million of total revenue. The second number you need is your total overhead expenses. That should include a reasonable owner salary. Okay, so if that's the case, and you tally up and you look at QuickBooks and you look at all of your overhead expenses, not cost of goods sold. That carpenter that you pay is in cost of goods sold. All of your materials, all of your trade partners, they're not sub anything, they're trade partners. All of your materials, they're in cost of goods sold. Your overhead expenses, and let's say your overhead expenses come out to $200,000. Those are 2 of the 3 numbers I need. And then the third number that I need is, I need to know, what is your goal as far as net profit goal. So maybe you've paid yourself a reasonable owner salary of $80,000 in overhead expenses. And you know what? I want a 10% net profit goal. So I've got $1 million of revenue, I've got $200,000 of overhead expense, and I've got a goal of $100,000 or 10% of revenue for my net profit. If I have those 3 numbers, I can do my calculation, and that comes out to, I need to take my cost of goods sold, that in this example comes out to $700,000, and I need to mark it up 1.43, also known as a 30% margin, in order for this to work. So that's one way of going about it, is take those 3 key numbers, do the calculation, which that calculation, just so you know, ends up being my total revenue divided by my cost of goods sold. That's a little nerdy. And it spits out what your markup needs to be. $700,000 times 1.43 comes out to $1 million of revenue. So that's a nerdy, in the details way of calculating it. And that's where I usually start people. And when we do that, we go, okay, so that's what the numbers are saying here. What are you actually charging? Well, we're actually charging 1.35. Okay, and that comes out a little bit lower than that. Okay, so you're not terribly far off, but this is part of the reason why. Or people might go, you know what, we're actually already charging that. and we're charging, and we're coming out at a 30% margin. The problem is that's what we're expecting it to be, and we've got all kinds of slippage, and it slips down to 25%. Okay, so you don't necessarily have a pricing problem. You have a job costing issue. So that's another way of putting it. Does that resonate? Yeah. Was that fairly clear of one approach to it?
No, I think that's great. I think I think that will help a lot of folks on here. I know that we have clients that they just don't have their numbers dialed in, or they're not paying themselves a salary. They just take their salary out of the profit, and it's like, no, you get a salary, and the profit is your reward for actually running the business well, and they get that messed up a lot. I see that. It's one thing I wanted to ask you. When we were talking about the commonalities between the good businesses that you see that come to you for coaching and training. On the other side of that equation, what are some common traits you see with businesses that are not doing well? They're not failing. Is it things that you see in the business, or are there actually personality traits that you see in common with businesses that aren't doing so well?
That aren't doing so well?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer that question here in 1 second. I do have a little spreadsheet, markup calculator spreadsheet, kind of going through what I just went through. If you email Kyle, Kyle, at remodelers.com, put in there, send me markup calculator. I listen to Bob and Kyle's.
Is that on your website by chance?
That one is not specifically. That's why I was kind of like, if they just heard that and they're like, ooh, that sounds good, just shoot us an email and fire it over. We'll send it right back. As far as the ones that are struggling, the common traits, we just hit on a big one, is they're a 3 out of 10 with financials. That's absolutely a thing. It was interesting when you said personality aspect. The personality part that some remodeling business owners need to improve is they do need to sometimes improve their sales skills. You absolutely, if you are the one selling, you are a salesperson. Own it. It's not a bad thing. And you're either going to be a super amateur salesperson or you're a professional salesperson. So there's definitely some growth where some people it's super easy for them to build rapport, and it's very natural. For others, that's an area that they need to grow in, and they absolutely can. They need to get really, really clear with 5 powerful words. This is how we work, and get really clear with your process that you're walking clients through. I would say another personality aspect is that as you grow your business and as you add a few team members, what you're going to quickly recognize, or you need to quickly recognize, is, wow, I kind of underappreciated how important leadership was. What is this leadership thing? I'm not really a natural leader. How does this work? And you start to realize, just like I need to become 8 out of 10 on financials instead of 3 out of 10, you may rate yourself pretty low on the leadership scale. There's so many ways to improve as a leader. And for some people, that's supernatural. For other people, that's an area of growth. So companies that are struggling, they're really good. They're really good at describing and executing the project, but on the business skills, those are areas of growth. And we need to own the responsibility of becoming a solid salesperson. We need to own the responsibility of becoming and improving as a leader, and then improving as a person that understands financials. And then the other area that also needs to kind of simultaneously be climbing is I need to not be annoyed with this hat of marketing. Yes, I can hire Bob and his team to work on the website side, to work on the SEO side, to work on some of those marketing things. But I also need to be a business owner who says, you know what? I need to create content. I need to document the process. I need to show our job sites. I need to go out there and get Google reviews. I need to go out there and develop strategic partners. I need to network with those designers and architects and realtors and high-end landscapers. I need to embrace marketing a bit and invest in marketing. If you're spending very little in marketing and you're proud of it, stop. You need to be spending at least 1% of your revenue on marketing, and go up from there depending on how quickly you want to grow, how long you've been in business, and how things are going. It is not a badge of honor to spend 0.5 of 1% on marketing. Now, if you've been in business for 30 years and you're not wanting to grow much, chances are maybe you can get by with just your reputation and previous clients and repeat work and referrals. But for a lot of folks, we need to invest in marketing more. I don't think you have anything to say to that, do you, Bob?
No, I would just like for you to repeat that whole thing again.
Yeah. Invest in marketing, folks.
Yeah, and it's funny too, when things start slowing down, that's the area of the business that usually gets sacrificed. Business owners will, I got to cut back. We're not making enough. It's like, no, that's where you got to put more into it. But I mean, it really is music to my ears, Kyle, because we're constantly, bugging our clients for content. There's a lot that we can do from an SEO perspective, or, content, dialing things in with PPC or whatnot. But, we need pictures from the job sites. We need stories to tell so that we can, use those for social posts and whatnot. And a lot of, remodelers, builders are not embracing that as much because they're not tech savvy, or, I don't like to be on camera. I don't like to do selfie videos. Like, there's always excuses.
Why am I having less patience for those excuses, Bob?
Because
huh?
I was gonna say, yeah, they don't work. At some point, you got to say,
Yeah.
you know what, this isn't working, and
Yeah.
maybe listen to someone like Kyle.
Yeah, and this whole thing, anything that's coming out of Bob's mouth or my mouth, we're not making any money today off of this. We're doing this to build. I mean, marketing is building know, like, and trust. That's good. But this whole recording is to try to help whoever is listening to this to just grab one nugget, to just grab one idea. Maybe you already heard it. Maybe you're already done. You could turn this thing off. If you heard something amazingly helpful related to the financials and you're like, man, I have to dig into my job costing, and you already have some clear next steps to do that, you've got your value from this. Get out there, put some focused time into that. But when you kind of said, well, I'm not tech savvy, I don't really know this marketing stuff. Again, I'm empathetic to that. And maybe you need to find somebody on your team. Maybe your office manager is going to be amazingly helpful for that. Maybe you have a designer on your team that could assist with that. Maybe you have one of your team members in the field who really understands social media and they're creating some content. Maybe that's the case. But you are a business owner in 2026, and it is going to be important, just as important now. It's going to be more important next year and more important the following year, that you embrace the hat of, I've got to create some content. I've got to get out there. I've got to get more comfortable in front of video. And I've got to try some things. You've got to try some things. Get outside your comfort zone a little bit. The thing that's really helpful and good about that is you already are comfortable when you're sitting next to an ideal prospect, talking about your process and what you're about, talking about their project. You simply need to take the stuff. Let's imagine you're on one of your job sites and you have an ideal prospect standing next to you. What are you going to show them? You're going to show them job site cleanliness. You're going to explain to them how you did take out that beam on that wall and we were able to take that out to open up this space. You're going to talk about a cool faucet, touchless faucet. You're going to talk about how you're taking the flooring. When you take this out, you're going to take the hardwoods all the way to the wall for this or that reason. You're going to talk about the slow close drawers. There's all kinds of things that you are going to story tell and explain to that ideal prospect. That's your marketing. Just document what you do. You have a wonderful design for that kitchen. There is 20 pieces of content just sitting there in that 3D design, or just in showing off how all of the work that you're doing up front to make this project go smoothly once a hammer hits the job site. Don't overthink it, and stop making excuses. Try it. Even if you create a video, it doesn't mean it has to see the light of day. But experience it, taste it. The more reps you get at it, the better you're going to get. And yes, if you're one of Bob's clients and you're paying good money to get help on content and SEO and this and that, you have a part to play. Create the content, do the work that you need to do to feed them the custom video and content that's going to work out better. Because evergreen content that's just kind of generic, it doesn't get people's attention in 2026. Hence why you need to be a content creator. All right,
Yeah,
I'm off my
absolutely.
soapbox.
No, it's perfect. It's music to my ears again. And one thing you mentioned too, it just made me think of, having systems and processes in place for this. Where you're not winging it, where you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to go out here and try to figure out how to make this video that Bob wants. Having a system for that, having a process in place, an SOP that you can follow so that it becomes easy. It makes things so much more consistent, and you'll stick to it if you have those things in place. I remember whenever I got into this marketing business, when I came from remodeling and custom home development, one of my best friends, an engineer, is like, just make sure you build your systems. And at that time, I had no idea what he was talking about, but I knew he was a really smart guy. And I thought, okay, just keep thinking about systems. And it's the best piece of advice I've probably ever gotten in business. And that's kind of what you're talking about, because a lot of companies, they don't really have those systems and processes fully dialed in, or maybe even partially dialed in, right?
Yes. Yep. And we don't need to be overwhelmed by that. We just need to kind of say, okay, what is my next process? What is my next SOP that I need to get in place? And make that all right, this month, if we just get that dialed in and in place, for example, oh man, we're starting this project next week, and here we are again, not really having a strong start, not really having a nice pre-construction meeting where we take our lead carpenter and we go to the site and we meet the client and we talk about where we're going to put the porta potty, where we're going to put the trailer, where the water shutoff is, what time we're going to start and stop, how we're going to access the home. All of these little things that we could go through a nice SOP and checklist on. And maybe that's your thing this month. Pick one process, one area of your company that's clunky, and let's get a good process in place, checklist in place for that. And that's your goal this month, because you don't have unlimited time every week to work on your business. 90% of your time is in the business, most likely, and maybe 10% is doing some on the business stuff. And what we end up doing is we try to do 10 on the business things with very limited time, and we get 5 of those things halfway done and none of them fully done. One finished SOP, one finished checklist, one finished item is worth 10 times more than 50 half-finished items.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. Good remodeling companies, good SEO companies, good coaching companies, good companies take process, checklist, SOPs seriously. And guess what? As you grow your business, it becomes even more important to have those things in place. And even if it's just you and kind of an assistant, it's a great time to start to put those in place. Pick one. Just pick one and focus
Yep.
on it.
Chip away at it. Yeah. You're speaking of things that maybe people are resistant, business owners are resistant a little bit. Maybe they don't want to get out, do those SOPs yet, or they keep putting them off, or don't have good follow through, having a low score on that disc profile maybe and follow through. What is one piece of advice that you consistently give remodelers that you work with that they initially hate, but maybe come around to later once they realize that maybe you're onto something?
I mean, it's probably more along the lines of what I just shared in my coaching, and it's kind of how I operate, and I think it's how a lot of us operate. Is frankly, as a young business coach, I thought that giving a lot of different ideas is how I deliver value. If I just, we could do this, and you could try this, you could try that, and I'm like, sweet, I just gave him 10 ideas. I am so valuable and so helpful. And what I've come to realize over the years is less is more. And it's kind of what I was just describing. There's a lot of different things. Less is more. Pick one at a time. And if you can knock out that thing this week, wonderful. And then you can go pick out the next thing. But we tend to try to do too much at once and therefore don't make nearly as much progress. So that's the advice that sometimes I think clients might kind of go, well, what about this? Or they do what I sometimes do. I'm guilty of this as well. They're like, well, that's kind of boring. Can't we talk about this fun thing or that fun thing or that bright, shiny object? Or can't we talk about AI instead of this very practical thing that I've been ignoring in my business for the last 3 years? No. That practical, simple thing that is kind of boring that you're putting off because you don't really want to do it, that's where the progress is. So I'd say I've learned this in my own business. Get really clear with the next right thing to work on. Be tenacious with getting it across the finish line and then pick the next thing. And that's kind of a boring thing and that's kind of an annoying thing, but oh baby, that's how we improve.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's any big lie that remodelers are telling themselves, something they believe about maybe they don't need all these process docs, or maybe it's just more leads they need? Just some kind of something they tell themselves over and over that you've heard with working with hundreds of clients that is just really not the problem in the business or one of the problems in the business.
Um, I would say one of my early moves in my business was hiring a business coach for myself, and there's a gentleman named Dove Gordon, and one of the things that he just here years and years later it still sticks with me. He's like, Kyle, we need to not hack at the leaves, we need to strike at the root. Stop hacking at the leaves, strike at the root. You're hacking at the leaves over here, you're ignoring the root issue, the root problem. So as far as the lies people sometimes tell themselves is, they're hacking at the leaves of, well, I could never charge that amount in my market, or I people will never pay this amount, or people are always just price shopping, price shopping, price shopping. Well, like whatever narrative you tell yourself becomes more and more true, and we can flip that narrative. Not that none of that is total lie, but I could never do that. And then you do it, and holy cow, I can charge more. Or another one is, I could never charge for design and project development. People in my market don't charge for design and project development. I need to keep doing all of that work for free, which means I'm running around like crazy, and you're not really doing it in detail in the way it should be done. And then all of a sudden they get the kind of clarity on how to present it, and they say, hey, there's your free estimate based on the projects you're describing. Projects that we've done that are similar size of scope, your project's going to range anywhere from 150,000 to 100,000. You see how I flipped the high number first?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
I
kind of
got
weird,
that.
isn't it? It's kind of weird.
Gets people thinking.
Yep, and it gets people thinking, and they might go, wow, that's a big range. And you might go, yeah, it is a big range, because there's so many ways that we could take this project. And as you make decisions, it'll kind of move it from one section to the next. Now, I did mention the higher number because we've walked a lot of people through the remodeling process. And as you start to make selections, most likely you will end up at or above that higher end of the range. But the next step is we can create these beautiful designs and these 3D designs. We can create this beautiful and detailed scope of work. We can bring some of our key trade partners in so we can get fixed prices on our different things. We can walk you through the detailed selection process. We want to really do all of this work up front before a hammer hits the job site, because we want to deliver to you a process that leads to a project that is smooth, that stays on budget, that stays on schedule. And if we don't get into the details before the hammers arrive, what ends up happening is change orders, last minute changes. We finally decide on the tile and it's back ordered, and now this project's going to take another 3 weeks. So that is how we work. We do charge for design and project development. Here's what that looks like. So that's just an example of going from, oh, I could never do that, to, you know what, that actually sounds pretty convincing, and that makes a lot of sense. And I gave them a free estimate. What I didn't give them is detailed plans, detailed budget, detailed selections, and more of a fixed price. So there's a lie out there that I could never do that, and a lot of people work through that. So whatever it might be, I don't know how marketing works. Oh, I'm not very techy. Oh, this or that. There's a lot of lies, and I've told myself a lot of lies. I remember getting in a mastermind group with other coaches and going, how in the world does Vicky charge that? I could never do that. And you know what? As I learn, as I build confidence, as I build clarity, all of a sudden, I'm charging that or more. What is going? Wow, wow. So there's a lot of lies we tell ourselves, and that's part of the great game of business. That's part of the enjoyment of business. Is you can look back and go, I can't believe that I used to think that. I can't believe that that used to be the way I approached this. I can absolutely do it, and it happens just by little thing. Running a successful remodeling business isn't some magic bullet. It's a combination of a lot of little things. Getting my pricing in order, doing my job costing, working on my sales process, improving my marketing. It's all little things, and it never ends, which is fine, which is good. That's part of business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The one line I love the most is, "I need more leads. I need more leads." I had a mid eight figure client of ours say that, and I thought, well, wait a second, we're sending you 100 plus leads a month. And then we looked at the close rate, and the close rate was like 12%. I'm like, okay, we don't have a lead problem. We got a sales problem here.
Hmm.
How are we at 12%? So we were able to work through that a little bit. But that's always one of my favorite lies that remodelers tend to tell themselves. But I really like the examples you gave. I think the examples you gave and some of the things you've already said will answer this question. But one of the questions I really want to put out there for our viewers is, what's the biggest difference really between a $2 million remodeling company and a $10 million remodeling company?
Yeah.
What are they doing differently? Is it
Uh,
kind of everything you've kind of
it,
encompassed
it,
here
it
so
is
far?
everything. It is everything. But I would say when I see a profitable, and whether it's that revenue level or whether if it's a business that the owner has truly been able to kind of put the owner hat on more, or the owner is doing the things that they really love doing and not feeling like they have to do this, that, or the other, whether they're at 2 or 5 or 1.5 or whatever the number is, the biggest common denominator that I have found, and I don't like to talk about myself too much, Bob, but occasionally it's okay to flex a little bit. I've worked with hundreds of remodelers. I'm good at what I do. I've made this my career. I love what I do. I've studied this. I've worked with people, and none of it's easy and this and that and whatnot. I'm not perfect, and I'm not. I might be the greatest business coach for remodelers who lives on Winfield Drive in Brighton, Michigan. I'm
It's
probably the
probably a
best at
good
that.
chance of that.
I'm also the only one. But like this comes with some experience. The biggest thing that I would say is the team, the team, the team. Your processes, your consistency, your ability to deliver results consistently. Yes, they have to do with software. They have to do with SOPs. They have to do with this. But if you have kick butt, thoughtful, want to do really, really well, A-team players, that is the biggest indicator of success for a remodeling company.
Yep.
Kyle, it's hard to find those people. Well, no crap. You have to become a company that attracts those types of those types of employees. You have to be generous with what you pay people. You have to have a wonderful bonus program. You have to have a wonderful benefits package. Guess what? For every 10 amazing carpenters that were doing their career in the 90s and the early 2000s, there's one of them now. We know that. You have to be the company that they want to come and work for. There's only a handful in your market of amazing project managers. How are you going to attract them to your company? You need to be a company that markets really, really well, that has a great sales process, that's growing, that's exciting, that's taking wonderful care of their employees, that takes that Friday off every other month to do something fun for their team members, that does something great at Christmas time, etc. And how do we do that? We do that through a combination of a lot of little things over time, but you know your numbers better than everybody else. That's going to be a huge unlock for that. You've really cracked the code on your marketing plan and you're consistent with your marketing plan. You've really worked diligently and hard to continually improve your sales process. You've taken leadership seriously and you've literally read 6 leadership books in the last 12 months. And then you become a company over time, piece by piece, that those awesome employees want to work for. And if
Yeah,
you're making
absolutely.
excuses that there's not good people out there, we've got to look in the mirror a little bit more than pointing our finger. So that's the biggest unlock, man. The team, when you surround, my business would be crap without 2 awesome full-time team members that I have and 3 coaches that are leading peer groups for us. There's only so much we could do as our owners. The team, the team, the team is so important. So if you heard that and you have some awesome employees, bend over backwards to thank them more, show them more appreciation. It's not just like more money and money. If you have team members that you needed to let go a year ago, it is way past time, and you need to give them an opportunity for other employment, and you need to start working on being a company that attracts the next great employee. All right.
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
I'm jumping on a lot of soapboxes, Bob. I apologize if I'm being
These
too
are some
direct.
good soapboxes, though. I think these are ones that people need to hear because a lot of people, they're always thinking about it. It's always the other problems out there, those lies they tell themselves, and they don't
Hmm.
really think, oh, am I really doing all I can to hire the best people? And what does that really mean? You know, how many books on that have you read, or AI models have you asked that question to? Or are you just trying to, kind of wing it? Like one of the things I was thinking about after we were talking the other day, we always hear that we need more leads, we need more leads, and oftentimes that's not really the problem. And you mentioned this story about, when is enough enough? When do you get to let up on the accelerator a little bit, and stop tinkering with your business, and really just kind of focusing maybe on growing your pipeline instead. And I really thought that was interesting, the story you shared on, when is enough enough, and thinking about your long-term goals as part of that. You want to, maybe share a little bit on that, because I thought that was a really good a story you told there.
Yeah, and it was when we were talking yesterday. I don't know how it even came up, but I had just gotten off a coaching call the day before with a client, and we were just wrapping up the call, and he goes, "Hey, I have another quick question for you. I've been thinking about this lately. When is enough enough? Like, when do I kind of just get to take my foot off the gas a little bit and relax a little bit and chill a little bit? Like, and when's enough enough growth wise and revenue wise and money wise and workload wise and all that?" And I thought, great question. You just asked it with literally 2 minutes left in our call, my friend. But we ended up talking for a little while about it, um, and it's a great question. And I think it comes down to one, what you were just hinting at is like, where are you trying to take this? There's a remodeler I know who's sitting at $1.2 million. He's making $240,000 a year. He's debt free. He's very consistent. He's got a couple of team members. He's happy, and he's this word. Con, I can't even hardly say it. Content.
You
He has
can't.
he has contentment. Whoa, what is contentment? And I remember talking to him like, "Hey, don't you want to grow? What's the next thing?" He's like, "Kind of happy with this.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got really great work-life balance. I love tinkering in the shop. I love going over and helping my kids with projects they have going on. We've got 5 grandkids. And like, he's still kind of mid 50s. He's not he's young man, 55, young man. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. That's his story. Now, 2 seasons from now, he might change that. He might go, you know what? I'm actually ready to rev it up. So seasons change. There's other clients who are like, I know I'm at $1.2 million. I want to be at 10 million in 3 years. I'm like, okay, tell me more. Why? Why? You've been watching too many TikTok videos about business and, bro coaches. Is that what's going on here? What's going on here? I just want to grow. I want to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. Okay, it's interesting. So why? Why do you want to grow? It's a challenging question, and it's a good question. And so anybody listening to this, of like, it's really helpful of like, okay, I've been in business for a while now. This is going okay. This is still a struggle for me. This is okay. Ugh, I haven't been putting much time into my marriage lately. That's kind of struggling. Oh, I haven't talked to my nephew in a while. I remember telling myself as kind of a New Year's resolution I was going to lean into kind of that relationship, or I was going to get back involved in my church a little bit more, and I've just kind of just been putting that off a little bit. Whatever it is, give yourself some empathy. Give yourself, some slack. We don't need to beat ourselves up. And then get clear. Like, what are you trying to do? What is the life that you want to live? How is the business supporting the life that you want, not the other way around? And business is hard, and business has a way of sneaking its little tentacles into every orifice of our life. And it's
Yep.
hard to get it in its proper place. So, like, yeah, when is enough enough? The answer to that is different for everybody. But I would make sure you get really clear with your why you would want to grow, why you want to improve, and yes, maybe put some metrics on it. If I got this thing up to $2 million of revenue, and we're kicking it out at a 33% margin, and I add this and this person, which would put my overhead expenses at X amount, and I got a 10% net profit, and I'm making $250,000, that would be amazing. There's my vision. There's my 24-month vision, or there's my 3-year vision, and work towards that. Or maybe your goal, or enough's enough, is like, I want to work a reasonable amount of hours. It's business. Like, I've worked in seasons where I've worked my ever-loving face off. But you know what? I want to take Friday afternoons off pretty consistently. That would be a joy for me to really disconnect from the business in the afternoon on Friday. I might still fiddle with business a couple hours before the kids get up on Saturday morning, but mostly my weekends are off. That's my vision. And if I can do that, I'd be happy. So get real clear with what you want this to look like and why, and make sure you're not just chasing some vision of that you don't even really want,
Right.
and you're stressing yourself out too much. Things take time. So those are a couple thoughts related to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I love thinking about the why because so many people, they want more and more, whatever that more is, but they don't really know why they want that. So I'm really glad you kind of hit on that. It's been a great interview, Kyle. So many bangers in here. Such great advice. I'm going to paint one last little scenario here for you before we wrap up. Let's say a remodeler listening to this awesome interview with you on the way home from work today, trying to catalog all these things that you said, all this great advice. What's the one thing when they wake up tomorrow that they can do? That one thing that first thing that they can work on that's really going to start moving them forward and changing their business and making them more successful.
You're asking good questions, Bob. I told you when we got off the prep call, I said, I want you to try to stump me. I want you to bring the heat. And you're bringing,
I,
and
I've,
you're bringing.
I think I've stumped you a few times. I feel pretty good about this.
I don't know if you stumped me. You may have caught me off guard a little bit, but I rounded it out and figured out something to say. And the one thing to me, I think I'd go back to that theme of the one thing that they need to do is their frog. Their frog. The frog is, if you had to eat your frog, eat your frog. It's a Brian Tracy little thing back from the 80s. If you had to eat a live frog every day, what would you do? Would you put it off and it would distract you and drain you all day? Or would you just eat the stinking frog and get it over with and it would give you energy and it wouldn't distract you all day? His analogy is the frog is the most important thing you need to get done that you're most likely to put off. Your frog is your most important thing you need to get done that you're most likely to put off. And if you can start each day by identifying your frog and eating that first thing, you are now moving in a good direction. So what can they do the next morning? Identify your frog. It might be that hard conversation you've been putting off with your employee. It might be that hard conversation you need to have with that client. It might be pulling up that job cost report and grappling with it and really leaning into the crap that job cost report is showing so that you can learn from it and improve on your next estimate and your next project you start. All of us have a frog, a thing that we are putting off that we need to eat. And if we can get real consistent with that every week, every day, frankly, we start to make progress. So that's a phrase, and that frog thing is something that in my years of coaching has had a lot of staying power. A lot of people go, I ate my frog today. I'm like, oh, that one resonated with people. So that would be my answer there. Yeah. So you didn't stump me. That was a good
Yeah,
answer. I
no,
got an answer out for that.
yeah, absolutely, man. I knew you would come through on this. Yeah, great answer there, and it's just the follow through, the avoidance of procrastination. There are just easy concepts that we don't think about. We think about this thing that we don't want to do, and when you think about, let's just, like you said, eat the frog. Just get
Frog,
it
man.
done. Start that thing the first thing, in the morning, and then the rest of the day is like completely liberating.
Yeah, Bailey on my team, she's
Yeah.
kind of my right hand. There's a frog that I've been putting it off, and it's like we do EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. As part of that, you have
Yep.
a quarterly
Yep.
rock. Each person has a quarterly rock. I had a quarterly rock, and here we are starting a new quarter, and the previous quarter's rock is not completed. I've been putting it off. I'm like, I don't know what direction I want to go with it. I was kind of stuck in this. And we got on Zoom this afternoon and spent an hour on it and literally 50 minutes on it. At the end of the 50 minutes, something that I've been putting off, thinking through, brainstorming, but not stinking making decision and putting it in writing. At the end of the 50 minutes, it was done and it was good and it was clear. And it was like, why have I been so distracted and drained by that, and I've been putting it off? Eat your frog. And each one of us has things like that pop up. And I think that's a huge part of success in business is continuing to do those things consistently, continuing to figure out the next right thing to work on, making sure that we see things through and we're not distracted by the shiny object. I think those are huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We do EOS too. We just did our rocks last week. So I totally know where you're coming from there. But yeah, that's a great one. Eat your frog, folks, for you guys listening out there. Hopefully some of this has really resonated with you. Kyle, this has been a great interview. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing so much advice. Really, really appreciate some of the insights that you've shared today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was great. It's great.
Absolutely. For everyone else out there, hopefully you guys got some great value out of this. Hopefully you go out and start eating frogs tomorrow morning straight away. Thanks for tuning in, turning on here, and listening to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast. And we will see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Hey, if you liked our podcast, join the remodeling community and hit subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so be sure to share your thoughts on what you might want to hear about in future episodes. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit homeremodelerSEO.com and check out our services that can help build your foundation for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.